Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons Children, other tabletop role-playing games. All tabletop role-playing games are direct children or grandchildren of Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about something that Shawn Merwin called out, which I think is very real concern in the tabletop role-playing game industry. It's a real insight, and I love the way he put it, and I want to talk about it today. Games that are art, that are pieces of art, but are not functional tabletop role-playing games. Brilliant, brilliant observation. The moment he said it, I knew exactly what he was talking about. So Shawn Merwin is one of the writers for Acquisition Incorporated, the official 5th edition book that was done with PAX, with Penny Arcade. Okay, so Penny Arcade is a very famous web comic. It's Mike Krahulik and I can't remember the other guy's name now. They're brilliant. They've been doing their thing for years and years and years. I actually don't read their comic anymore. Not because I don't like to, but I just don't go to websites anymore. Like, website seems like a crusty old thing. Like, just going to one particular website to get one type of content just seems really odd. Most of my time is spent on like social media sites that aggregate a lot of content. Or on an app, or like it seems like websites are just kind of old and crusty. It's like you're like, why are you taking the time to put this on a website? It just seems odd. But they are brilliant, and they've done incredibly well. And so Tejas Abadia and Shawn Merwin did writing for an official 5th edition canon book, which is Acquisition Incorporated. If you don't know that, I actually think the window for this is over. But they actually gave out Acquisitions Incorporated as a free book on D&D Beyond. If you don't have, by the way, we're this could be its own video, but I'm just going to say it here. We're past the part where you can't have a D&D Beyond account. If you play Dungeons & Dragons, you're going to have a D&D Beyond account going forward. Unless you're just, unless you're some casual scrub or something, then do whatever you want. But like, if you're playing at any serious level, if you care about your players, you got to have a D&D Beyond account now. They're giving out a lot of like how you gonna get Vecna, right? Like D&D Beyond has really come up, and they're giving out books pretty frequently for free. They're giving out a ton of free content on there. And Acquisitions Incorporated, the entire book was given out for free on D&D Beyond. So if you don't own this book, it's your own fault. If you were on D&D Beyond a month ago, you would have got it for nothing, right? So definitely get on D&D Beyond. It's very important. So Shawn Merwin is one of the writers on Acquisitions Incorporated. He's an official D&D 5e canon writer. That's a pretty big deal, right? And he said something brilliant. He said he was on his podcast, Mastering Dungeons, right? Him and Tejas Abadia do that podcast. It's absolutely fantastic. And he's like, there are games that function, that are art pieces that don't actually function that aren't actually functioning tabletop role-playing games. Totally agree, and I want to talk about it today. So he said what every Dungeons and Dragons commentator in the world says, which I absolutely detest. He's like, which is fine, it's not fine. Or like, some things suck, some things are good, right? Like, and the reason I push back on like it's fine is, why do you seal thine flapping maw? If everything's fine and you can do it any way you want, why take the time to do commentary, right? Like, just so you could blow sunshine everybody's butt and tell them whatever they're doing is fine, right? Like, there's a right way and there's a wrong path. There's a right path and there's a wrong path. And guess what? Writing tabletop role-playing games that function as pieces of art but aren't actually functioning tabletop role-playing games is wrong, right? And it took some wisdom to get here to realize that we have these, but now that we know, we got to fix the problem, right? So let's talk about this. So I'm going to give you some examples of this, because there are a lot of examples of this. Probably the most classic example of this is Burning Wheel. You can't go into the serious TTRPG pool and spin around and throw a foam rock without having somebody talk about Burning Wheel. It was written by Luke Crane. It's absolutely brilliant. It is a beautiful tabletop role-playing game with some of the best tabletop role-playing game design work that's ever been done. It is a piece of art. It is not a functioning tabletop role-playing game. It is not a functioning tabletop role-playing game. Why is that? Okay, here's why. You've got to have everybody at your game table in order to make Burning Wheel work and work well. You have to have top tier players, and I honestly believe the only people who are playing Burning Wheel are actually tabletop role-playing game designers. That's it. Right? Not even if you are a good tabletop role-playing game player, you still aren't going to be able to play Burning Wheel well, right? The only people who touch Burning Wheel are tabletop role-playing game designers. Now, the reality is there are thousands of them. There are thousands of people who have designed their own tabletop role-playing games. There was an entire podcast called Heartbreakers, and it was all about just super deep niche, drawer projects, like these super tiny tabletop role-playing games that people have written that nobody plays. Mine is one of those. So I wrote Freight Train Onyx. It's sitting over. You can get it for free on Itch.io, or you can get it for free on what is it again? On TTRPG. My game is on both for nothing, right? It's very complex. It's too complex. Mine fits into this too, right? Where it's just too complex. And so Burning Wheel is prototypical template. This thing is an art piece. It is not actually a functioning tabletop role-playing game. If you get your bog standard game master and your bog standard players, they're going to have a horrible, horrible time on Burning Wheel. Only the most innovative, dedicated, design level tabletop role-playing game participants can even touch Burning Wheel. That's just, it's a fact in my humble opinion. Another one, there's quite a few of these, right? Now, here's the thing. These were failures. All of these games were failures, right? And by the way, everything Luke Crane ever wrote falls into this. Mouse Guard. I own Mouse Guard. Brilliant game, right? Not really playable, right? Like, the design are so ornate and so fancy, it is not playable by anything but really good, superb players, right? Now, that one can be played by non-designers, but you need, everybody at the table has to be a top-tier player, right? And it's not good to design a game this way where every single person at the table needs to be a top-tier role player and a top-tier mechanical player, right? And everything Luke Crane ever wrote fits into that box. Here's another one. Fate. Fate is a piece of art. It is not a functioning tabletop role-playing game. It is highly complex. Actually, it's not even complex. It is not complex, okay? Fate is a little different. It is not complex. Listen carefully. If you have somebody who is not a good role player, if you have a single person in a Fate game who is like, I'm a lone wolf and I'm going to go sit by the fire by myself and I don't care what the rest of y'all do and I'm going to Leroy Jenkins the first time I get an opportunity, it is not going to work. Fate is not going to work well. You got, if one person is peeing in the pool, if Fate is not going to work well. You need everybody on point and doing a good role-playing job. Fate is another one of these tabletop role-playing games that functions as a piece of art, but is not a functioning. If it is a piece of art, it is brilliant and beautiful in game design, but it is not a functioning tabletop role-playing game, right? And so that is John Harper's Lady Blackbird. Same thing, beautiful piece of art. If you don't have top-tier players, this thing ain't going to work. So the reality is there's quite a few of these games, and the reason why I'm calling this out is this needs to stop. People need to stop designing these and realize you have to do it the way Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition has done it. And so what has Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition actually done? They've done something really special. You can have a great time playing with a bad dungeon master in Dungeons & Dragons. And that is one of the reasons why Dungeons & Dragons is so popular and has been so massively successful. There is games within games in Dungeons & Dragons, and it allows people to come to the table, and it plays on so many different levels. It plays as a game. If you think Dungeons & Dragons is a game, you could just play it as a game, right? That you can do that. You don't want to do that for long. It's okay to do that for a year or two, but Dungeons & Dragons is actually a human improvement engine. It is the part of America's intellectual evolution going forward, but it does function as a functioning game. And not only that, you can actually have a bad dungeon master, and people are like, I don't even care if the dungeon master is bad. I'm going to hack goblins in half, and I'm going to level my character. And a lot of people just have a blast leveling their character and taking their character up. So it does function as fun, right? And you don't need people who are really good at role-playing to have a good Dungeons & Dragons game. The best Dungeons & Dragons game happen where you have good mechanical players and good role players, but you can have fun with bad players and bad dungeon masters at the game, and that is brilliant. That is incredibly well-crafted design. And so we as tabletop role-playing designers, including me, have got to figure out how to stop building these art projects and build functioning tabletop role-playing games. Shawn, Merwin, it's a brilliant topic he brought up, and I wanted to share my opinion with you, which I have now done. Let me know your opinion. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful morning.